for me, what really became evident for me was in my practice. Because when I started teaching chakras about 6 or 7 years ago, I would have clients come in and they would have physical pain. They'll have physical ailments in their body. And the Reiki was great to like help heal and repair and speed their progress. But it would typically it would return, it would come back, or it wouldn't heal as fast. But then what I would notice, even inside the sessions, is that when we started talking about the emotional component of that injury, or why, or what an example is better. So for example, and this is one of the examples I gave in yesterday's masterclass, was I had a client and he was about early 20s, maybe 24, 23, big bodybuilder build, huge guy. And he could barely walk in the door. His hip was causing a lot of problems. And he would say it was an old football injury. And he was open to this thing called Reiki, thank goodness, right? And so he came in and he barely could get on my massage table. And I started giving him Reiki to the hip because that was the most prominent, what needed to be healed in that moment, right? Of course. So I'm giving Reiki to his hip, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, what is this associated with? We're working on the left hip, not the right hip. We're working on the area where this could either be root chakra or sacral chakra, because that's where the location near it to it is. And so I've got my hands on the hip, and all of a sudden, I usually don't interrupt my clients in their meditative state, right? But I feel like, no, I'm being called to ask the question. So I ask him, did you move around a lot when you were a child? He was like, yeah, I was an army brat. I moved like 5 times in the first 10 years of life. And that is directly related to root chakra. And as he gave the answer, you could feel the whole hip go and just open and release completely.
Wow.
And then I go, okay, so we've worked on this is totally related to the root chakra trauma of moving too much as a child. He didn't have a foundation laid as a child. And now he's constantly, I almost want to say running away, not running away, but wanting to sit instead of deal with his problems. And so I was like, so then I was kind of like, this is also your left side. And what I knew of him is that he had a wife and he had 3 daughters under the age of 4. Right? Okay. Yeah. And I'm talking young family. They're 20, 23, 24 years old. And so I go, tell me a little bit about how things are going with your home life, because home life is root chakra. He's like, well, I got 3 daughters, all under the age of 4. When I come home, the house is in disarray. My wife is barely able to try to keep up. I'm exhausted because I'm a stonemason and I work really hard all day and I just want to sit down. I just want to sit on the couch. And I'm like, do you think that your hip flares up when you get to that point where you just want to sit down and you don't want to do anything and you need a good excuse? The hip opened a little bit more. And so I was tuning into the emotional association with the chakra regarding his issue. And because it wasn't it was a chronic issue. It was something that came up again and again and again and again. I knew that there was something more to it. And so once I could get into the emotions of it, then his hip healed. Then the Reiki could really support it, and then it could move. And so he literally walked out of my office without any pain, and I didn't hear from him again. It was just done. And so this is why I love the chakras, is because you can map it. If you can understand the emotional and spiritual components, and someone comes in with a physical issue, it's just the body going, pay attention to me. There's emotional suppression here. And that when we work on the emotions of the chakra, the physicality can heal. Do you see that?
Okay, say that again.
Yep. So if there is a physical disorder or dis-ease in the body, your body is trying to communicate something else that's going on. There's an emotional energy that needs attention. And so then it creates a physical expression. And so when we can go, okay, we have this physical problem, this physical problem is related to this chakra. And you can just look at the location of it. Is it a shoulder issue? Is it a digestion issue? Is it a leg issue? You go to the closest chakra and you look at all of those emotional components of the chakra. And then then we can have a conversation around the emotions around, well, heart chakra is about forgiveness and processing grief and all of these things. And so does that relate to your shoulder injury that you experienced? And if they can correlate it and we can find the connection, it like starts to like open and shift, especially while we're giving Reiki at the same time.